You are watching Xirtus.
I think when you could view reality through a degree of like a metaphysical nature,
Right.
and most other people are conditioned to do the exact opposite of that, you have a frightening degree of control over not just like individuals in mass, but also just the regular people that you see in your everyday life. I mean, it's really understanding like how do you really brainwash a person? How do you really control a person? And it's nothing to do with like changing their mind. It's nothing to do with presenting like specific facts in front of them. I mean, you can, but really the most effective way bypasses rationality. So it's not about making them feel a certain way, but if I control in the mornings make you feel angry, in the afternoons make you feel sad, then in the evenings make you feel happy again. And if I could do that every single day, I'm controlling like one third of your reality. You know, because a third, you know, like our reality can be broken down to how we mentally perceive things, how we intuit them with our emotions, and how we physically engage with matter. So if I could control like your emotional pattern, then that's like a huge degree of control, and that's scary. You know, like that's why self mastery is important, in my opinion. That's the only way to like that's the only defense you got, really.
So, but like, how much of that then is basically everyone is under control, and how much of that isn't even parasitic? It's well, I mean, it's our own. We're being influenced by each other, and maybe by characters that are more free, have more free agency than the rest of us, right?
Well, the reason why I'm not worried about that is 'cause let's say there are archonic beings, demonic beings, like something we can't perceive. The thing is, like, if they're our controllers, they have controllers, and their controllers control like have controllers. And if you go all the way to the top, you're only going to get one answer, and that's God, right? So it's like even the demons are of the divine spark, I guess, or you know, like ultimately.
Hmm.
I've
That's yeah.
found that like it doesn't even take a large amount of influence to change like the mind or the mood, not the mind, but the mood of large numbers of people. It even just one average person being more or less chaotic or calm in even a large city can really change the temperature of the whole place within like a week. I'm not kidding. There's only 6 degrees of separation between any two people in the United States of America. So like we're a lot more connected than we think, and it's way easier to drive large numbers of people crazy than it is to calm down large numbers of people. So if we all just made an effort to let everybody else around us know that hey, things are okay and we don't need to freak out, you know, even if it's not always happening, then maybe we would all be a lot calmer as a society.
Right. How about
Well,
the
in
weather?
situations
Sorry.
that people usually gravitate towards the calmest person in that situation.
Hmm.
I don't know if
Is
you've
that
seen any
really true though? Because
situations.
sometimes I see that like people tend to get into a frenzy in large numbers very easily, and that
But
doesn't
yeah,
need to be a
get into
riot.
little groups. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
agitate.
just echo chambers like on the
Yeah.
internet.
I do think a
Oh yeah,
tuning
yeah. But I
fork
mean,
is a
in a
thing.
sort of like a life situation, sort of like a disaster or something, people tend to, you know, they'll start shooting off in different directions, like mentally. But they'll, if
Mhm.
there's somebody who's calm, they'll sort of congregate around the calm person because, like, when the actual accident or whatever is over, then it's the calm person that they sort of congregate around.
Yeah,
Calmest
like
people.
if everybody gets to be their own little like beacon of rationality out there, then I think we can all kind of maybe like rein in the collective anxiety that society is feeling. Because there is a collective consciousness out there, and I think that a lot of people have been purposely pushing it further towards anxiousness than away from it. You know that you know. Does anybody else have that sense?
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think when it comes down to it, like someone was telling me, they were like, I think everyone just wants to exist in their own little bubbles of sanity. And the problem is there's people in the world whose job it is to literally pop those bubbles of sanity. And
Yeah,
it's, yeah, it's,
it's like
that's,
society is a hamster in a wheel, and somebody's like cattle prodding its backside just because they've got a generator hooked up to it or something.
yeah.
And you know, society's getting tired of that shit.
Well, we did a video at some point on Europa with
Wait a
Hanin
second. If we're all
Abdelaziz.
being used as batteries and producing energy for this system, that's kind of like an emotional matrix rather than a mathematical one.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's like this
It's a
big
cheap
Monster
prison.
thing.
like
It's a
a
prison of
demon. It's
cheap.
feeding off of our energy, and we're just feeding it by continuing to run in the fucking wheel.
Yep.
So this interview I did at
You'll
one
just take a
point
deep breath and relax; it'll stop.
with Hanin Abdelaziz, he's talking about cloud busting machines, right? So Wilhelm Reich had made these machines that are useful for creating storms, making clouds in the sky. Very effective technology. and he's making these machines now for Germany, Austria, as well as the United Arab Emirates, which are using these.
It looks like you're frozen because you're showing a picture of another podcast.
Yeah, that's fair. But I was just trying to show you the guy. Point is, one of the things he said in the interview was that it wasn't just affecting the weather, right? That a major part of this is that weather affects mood and mood affects weather. And I wonder about that too, because everyone's saying, you know, I mean, we kind of know this. We talk about the harp, and everyone's like, wow, harp. What's harp for? Well, they say harp is supposed to help with, you know, VLF, extreme, you know, Schumann resonance, and maybe the weather. But everyone's conspiracy is it's actually affecting your mind, right? So what do you think about that? Yeah.
Well, everyone's got their own magnetic field, right? And I mean, the magnetism could really affect like the whole ionosphere or whatever.
Wait, you rub your shoes on a fucking carpet and you touch a doorknob and it shocks you. Like you see a little lightning bolt if it's dark enough come off the tip of your finger and hit the.
But does that make you sad? I mean, that's the thing about the emotion.
But now imagine you have a whole city full of people walking around all fucking day. That's going to generate some static electricity, and it's probably going to change the amount of lightning you're seeing, the amount of condensation in the air,
and the path of least resistance,
how and everything. And you know what? If it makes less sunlight hit, it'll probably make you a little depressed.
Yes.
Yeah, it just doesn't need to be mystical, man. Like there's probably a mundane explanation, not a mundane, but like an earthly solution behind it, or at least something we can investigate.
Well, I mean, it's not that it's just like mystical or not mystical. The interesting part is that there is a scientific explanation, but then you also see all these like ancient traditions who've been pretty much saying and like the same thing, except in a much more primitive way.
Yeah.
So it's like
mystical means we haven't figured it all the way out yet. Like there was mysticism when we looked up at the stars, and it's like what that, and then we learned how to use that to calculate the seasons, and that created
but there's still a really interesting delay, right? Because when ancient mystics are saying like, oh yes, your thoughts can create reality and all that stuff, and you're like, okay, and then thousands of years later you have like physicists saying, oh yeah, you know, on a quantum level reality is actually just like both waves and particles, and your thoughts can actually influence that on the most fundamental level we could observe. So it's like, all right, that's like saying the same shit. I mean, it's good that there's a materialist like take and an explanation on it, but I think what really interests me is when these things start to kind of like integrate, you know, like when mysticism and science are both showing to say the same thing, and that's cool stuff, you know.
No, yeah, I'm definitely a mentalist, not a materialist. I really do believe that the entire universe is just God's mad dream.
Yeah, a fractal, like you know how one good way I like to put it, it's like if you as a human can just imagine or make up people in your head and make them have conversations with each other and all that stuff. What makes you think God's not doing that with us? Like maybe that's all we are.
No, but if you imagine the very edge of the universe, beyond that is the inside of your own skull, because you're still looking at your imagination.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.